Salams from the People's Dispatch Studios here in New Delhi. I'm Siddhantani and you're watching Daily Debrief. On the show today, we're talking about what the United States is up to in the Indo-Pacific region. We have reports coming in of violence breaking out in Baghdad, the Iraqi capital, and devastating floods in Pakistan. First up, latest reports from US publisher Politico indicate that President Joe Biden is gearing up to ask Congress to approve an arms sale worth over $1 billion to Taiwan. The package reportedly includes 100 Sidewinder missiles for Taiwan's F-16 fighter aircraft and 60 Harpoon anti-ship missiles. A major chunk of the deal, according to the report, also appears to be a renewal of an existing contract for surveillance radar. A couple of days previously, 2 US Navy warships crossed the Taiwan Strait in an exercise that the US said, I quote, demonstrates the United States' commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. Since the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan earlier, tensions have been high between the US and China over the region. And these latest reports of the arms sale appear to be a further escalation. I spoke earlier via video conference to NewsClick Editor-in-Chief Prabir Purkayastha to understand what's going on in the region. Prabir, good to have you back on Daily Debrief. We're looking at these reports coming in of a new sort of package of arms sales to Taiwan. Also, we're looking at what the US is calling freedom of navigation exercises happening. Could you put all of this sort of in a picture, paint a picture for us of what exactly is going on in terms of ratcheting up of tensions using these sort of key flashpoints, whether we were talking about Zaporizhia yesterday and today we're talking about Taiwan?
Yeah, the United States seems to be wanting to fight Russia in the morning and China in the evening. Now, that's the way it seems to be going at the moment, opening a two-front battle against both, which is a no-win situation for them in any case, as many experts have warned them about. And in fact, this is the old Kissinger doctrine. They don't fight two of them together. And if you do, then you are going to be in trouble. But if you leave that out, what is really happening is that while officially they talk about a one China policy, and don't forget, they started this by claiming Chiang Kai-shek after he was thrown out of mainland China and went to Taiwan, that Taiwan represented the whole of China. That was their position. We would like it to be one China, but nevertheless, Taiwan's independence, its sovereignty is something that we should look to and see how that can be done. The official position is still a one China. We don't recognize China as an independent sovereign country, but we recognize that it should be protected. We should defend it, etc., etc. There's a lot of ambiguity here. So what we see is really a dance towards going to a two-China policy, if you will, on Taiwan's independence, but doing it in a way that immediate flashpoints can be avoided as far as possible. And that's why the Pelosi was such a downer for them, because effectively it made it apparent what the real policy is all about. So I think we must understand the larger arc of the American policies on the question of Taiwan and China. So that is one part of it, and you can only understand it in this context. Therefore, arming Taiwan step by step to a level where they think even if China can launch an attack on Taiwan, they will pay a high price if they want to take it over. So it's more an inflicting of damage on China rather than thinking that Taiwan will be able to prevail in a fight with China. I don't think they have that intention. But nevertheless, the steps they are taking at different points of time seem to indicate that. And both of what you have just talked about, including the Pelosi visit earlier and various congressmen making a beeline to Taiwan, is really a part of that normalizing the drift towards a two-China policy, if you will, or independence of Taiwan, if you will. That seems to be what they're doing, while the cover is always, no, we're not doing that. In this particular case, of course, you have the two things that you've talked about, giving them a huge arms package, $1.1 billion. And we have already seen that the US has not done very well in trying to arm Ukraine. It's almost running down its own supplies in that sense, whatever they have stored. So the ability of the United States to fight this kind of two-front wars itself, of course, is called into question. But here what is, I think, interesting is this so-called freedom of navigation that the US keeps on talking about. Now, US is not a signatory as yet to the United Nations Law of Seas, the UNCLOS as it is called. In fact, they use it to talk about others, but they don't say, well, we don't subscribe it to ourselves. And one of the reasons they don't subscribe to it is exactly what their so-called freedom of navigation is all about. What are the maritime boundaries on the seas, so to say. And here, the boundaries that countries have done, and that includes their allies, Canada, France, India, of course, also has, as you know, problems with this freedom of navigation definition the US uses when we saw that Lakshadweep last year. All of this, the United States says, I do not recognize the sea boundaries that you are drawing, and we have the right to freedom of navigation, crossing those boundaries as we define they should be. So that is one, that we don't recognize your boundaries, we will create ours, and we have the right to navigate in the areas where you might say it's your boundary, within your boundary, we don't recognize that. We consider that freedom of navigation. For freedom of navigation purposes, these are open seas. The second is, even if we accept that these are open seas, as the US claims, the question is there is also the economic zone. And within the exclusive economic zone, there are certain things you are supposed to do and not do. Where a lot of countries have said, if you are carrying nuclear arms, you have to disclose it to us because that's hazardous material. If you are doing, say, underwater exploration, then you have to report it to us because that's something which impacts our exclusive economic zone. So if you are doing measures which essentially map out the radar, for instance, which are on the shores, then those are also things that is not supposed to be done under freedom of navigation without informing the land country whose territorial waters or exclusive economic zone. Now, these are the issues that still remain. Even if you do not agree with the territorial waters definition, as the US does not with about 100-odd countries, there is a list that you can see what those countries are. And as you can see, they also include US allies. So I think there are two sets of issues. What are the boundaries? And even if we do not recognize those boundaries, since you are crossing, obviously, agreed by everybody, the exclusive economic zone of these countries, you're passing near to those countries, what are your obligations that you have to follow under what would be considered an acceptable maritime law? And this is something also in which US is an outlier, and countries on whose behalf they claim they're doing the freedom of navigation, those countries like, for example, Philippines, does not agree with the United States definition of what the boundary should be or on the concept of freedom of navigation.
All right, thanks very much, Prabir, for your time. After the Libyan capital Tripoli over the weekend, Friday and Saturday, it's now the turn of citizens of Baghdad to face the specter of militia-based violence. Over 30 people have been killed, and there are widespread reports of gunfire, or at least there were, of gunfire and explosions in the city's green zone, a fortified area that houses key government buildings as well as foreign missions. Abdul covers the region for People's Dispatch and is in studio now with more details. Abdul, it appears to be multiple factions that are involved in the fighting that was going on or is going on in Baghdad. What are the reports that are coming in?
If whatever the confirmed reports are, there are of course speculations on various media organizations, but primarily whatever is confirmed is this. Yesterday, Muqtada al-Sadr, whose supporters are already sitting in the inside the green zone, inside the Iraqi parliament for almost a month now, demanding reforms, constitutional reforms and so on and so forth, demanding fresh elections. So after that, yesterday Muqtada al-Sadr announced that he is going to withdraw from politics altogether. He's shutting all his political activities, political offices and all, which led to kind of flash demonstration by his supporters, who later stormed inside the green zone, captured a lot of government buildings, and there are reports that a militia affiliated to Sadr's, largely Sadr's factions, called Al-Salam, basically was involved in fighting with the security forces.
Right.
So this was the thing which basically continued throughout the night on Tuesday and early morning Tuesdays, which has, as you rightly pointed out, has led to the confirmed killing of 30 people. Around 700 to 800 people have been injured as per the reports.
Right.
So I think there are also, as I said, speculations that there are militias affiliated to al-Sadr, the Fatah Alliance group. Some also talked about them being Iran affiliated, Iran supported, and so on and so forth,
Right.
also being party
Involved.
to the conflict. But Hassan al-Sabi issued a statement on their Twitter page saying that we are not involved. The leader of Fatah Alliance also talked about that they are not involved in it. So this seems to be there seems to be an attempt to kind of make it a multi-faction conflict
Right.
in Baghdad. But as I said before, the confirmed report says that this is primarily between
Two
the
parties.
Sadr supporters and the state
Security forces.
security forces.
Right. So there is a fractured polity, Abdullah, and clearly that's impacting the lives of people in Iraq. What is the sort of broader picture at the moment?
Well, we all know that Iraq is going through a political turmoil for at least last 2.5 years. In October 2020, there was a popular mobilization against the then government. Of course, the post-occupation Iraqi system, political system, had a lot of problems, has a lot of problems, particularly the sectarian quota system, inefficiency among the ruling classes. People have Iraq, which is one of the richest country in terms of resources in the world. It is one of the largest producers and exporters of oil. Correct. Despite that, a large number of Iraqis are falling below the poverty line, not able to get employment and all. So, taking all these issues, there were demonstrations in October 2020, which forced the then government to resign. And since then, Iraq is ruled by a caretaker administration. And the ruling classes have not been able to kind of make sense of what is the way ahead. And that basically has led to various kinds of ideological conflicts. Meanwhile, the protests are going on in one form or the other from time to time. Elections were held last year. They were inconclusive. And even after the elections, it has been 10 months now, there has been no government.
Right.
So now the ruling classes is completely divided. I think though the people are completely united on one thing, that there should be change in the political system, in the ruling classes, but the ruling classes have there is an attempt to deny it, attempt to kind of recognize the need of change. And that basically leads to Muqtada al-Sadr being a leader who is claiming to be representing the popular opinion. And that basically is, you can see the main reason, you can say central reason for the current situation in Iraq at this moment.
Right, and no sort of short-term, obviously, or easy resolution.
Of course,
in sight for this.
the fight might stop for a while, but there is a huge possibility that it will come back again if there is no solution found to the popular wishes.
Right. I'll ask you to stick around because we're talking about the devastating floods in Pakistan next, and we'd like some of your inputs on that as well. Like I was saying, since June this year, Pakistan has been ravaged by deadly floods resulting from a variety of factors. Record-breaking monsoon season, of course, being one of them, that have killed, injured and displaced tens of thousands, if not millions of people. The death toll has crossed over 1,000, and latest estimates from Pakistan's NDMA, that's their National Disaster Management Authority, say that as many as 33 million people across the country are affected by the floods. Abdul, difficult situation for Pakistan. Tell us what exactly is going on and what steps the government is taking sort of to try and mitigate the situation.
Well, the rains, as you rightly pointed out, primarily climate change induced rains. As per the reports, there are 3 times more rain this season than in the past. And Pakistan is mostly, if you see the geographical structure, the mountains on the north and south is basically the most of the rivers go there. Correct? So it has created a lot of devastation across the river basin throughout the country. And no province, starting from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa till the Pakistani Kashmir to other parts, all the provinces in Pakistan have been affected, including capital Islamabad. As per the estimates in the Pakistani newspapers report, there are government says around $10 billion losses have been reported so far. As you said, more than 1,000 people have officially been declared dead because of the rains, and a large number of people, the houses and other agriculture and everything has been destroyed. UN has been trying to kind of collect funds throughout the world, and so far has basically asked for $160 million to kind of provide relief. Apart from that, there are countries like China and other neighboring countries who are supporting the government, but the problem is with the government in Pakistan. We know that there is a political turmoil going on, and the present administration has basically failed to address the long-term economic problems which Pakistan is facing. So inefficiency in the administration basically is multiplying the problems faced by the people, and that need to be addressed somehow.
Right. All right. Thanks very much, Abdul, for that update. And with that, actually, is a wrap for us on this episode of Daily Debrief. From Abdul, myself, and the entire team here at People's Dispatch, thank you very much for watching. As always, for details on all of these stories, you can head over to our website, peoplesdispatch.org, and give us a follow on the social media platform of your choice. We'll be back again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Goodbye.